DaVo here from the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in Des Moines, Iowa. And coming up next, is my piercing infected? Going to go through some of the signs and what you should probably do if you do think you have an infection. Just some ideas. Coming up right now. Before we get into this, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and we share space with the Skin Kitchen Tattoo here in Des Moines, Iowa. That's a lot to get out. I do need to specify very specifically, if you have found this video because you think that you have an infection or some other problem, nothing replaces going and seeing your piercer or a medical professional, especially if the issue does not seem to resolve itself or it seems like it has gotten worse. Time is always of the essence. So, if you have an issue, go see your piercer, go see your doctor. However, in the meantime, if you're just like, I don't know, is it infected or not? Here's some information to know. It is not uncommon for you to see some of these signs of infection and other problems for that first couple of days as your body accepts the piercing to a couple of weeks. It is not uncommon to see some of those signs as your body tries to recover from the trauma, seal up that wound that you've created for the piercing, and try to get you to remove it. We are doing something to the body that it does not like. It wants you to remove the jewelry because it's much easier for it to seal over the wound and stop the possibility of infection or other problem. Get to that thing it likes to do, which is heal, fight off foreign pathogens, because that's what your body does. For that reason, it's not uncommon for you to see some signs of infection like discomfort, discolorization, heat, tenderness to touch, inflammation, swelling, off and on for that first couple weeks as your body accepts the jewelry and gets over the trauma of the piercing. That's normal. However, if this creeps up or continues past the first week or so, it really is something you should be concerned about. So, if you possess or are showing two or more of these signs, I really suggest that you seek professional advice as soon as possible, especially if the problem progresses or gets less. If you've done this, let's say you did the piercing yesterday and today it's got this discharge stuff and it looks really gross, chances are if the piercing was done by a professional who's skilled, who understands cross-contamination and used sterile equipment, it isn't infected. It's probably the normal reaction that you're having from getting the piercing. The only other reason why in that first couple of days you would get an infection is if you tried to do it yourself, dumb idea, or the person who did the piercing is not really an expert and they don't understand anything and they contaminated the wound, or you aren't following the aftercare instructions the piercer gave you, including cross-contamination prevention, and had contaminated the wound at some point. So, what I'm saying is, if it's immediately after the piercing is done, it was done by a professional, and you're following the aftercare instructions as well as you possibly can, you're doing a fairly good job, chances are it's not infected at this point, unless it doesn't go away. And it could point to a lot of other problems. The other thing is a lot of people will have a problem with a piercing that has nothing to do with an infection and will naturally assume that it is an infection and try to treat it like that. A lot of medical professionals will do the same thing. Sometimes piercings flare up and have issues that have absolutely nothing to do with foreign pathogens. They have more to do with improper jewelry, the piercing being placed wrong, or your body's general reaction to having a foreign object in it. It just might be one of those unlucky people, is what I'm getting at. Seeing a professional piercer who has a lot of experience diagnosing problems with piercings will kind of help you get past that. Plus, an ethical piercer is going to be the first one to go, hey, that is infected. It's beyond my help. Please go see your doctor. And then let me know what they suggest and what happens, and if you need any more help, come see me. So, that out of the way. Signs of infection will usually include one or two of these, usually two or more, is when you need to be concerned. The First sign of infection is redness or discolorization around the piercing area. It can be anywhere from just a slight off color to a bright red or even darker colors. You should be especially concerned if that area is expanding of that redness or discolorization, or it seems to be moving towards your heart. At that point in time, stop watching this video and go to the emergency or urgent care immediately, because you have an issue and it may be turning systematic. That's it. So, redness or discolorization, heat. The next one would be heat, or in the area becoming inflamed or feverish. Your body pumps up that kind of temperature to help your immune system get an upper hand when it comes to fighting off foreign pathogens. So, just like when you get sick, you get that high fever, the area will be feverish and hot to the touch. The next one is swelling. Now, you are going to experience swelling during the initial piercing and etc. That's normal. It's trauma. That's how your body takes care of it, and how it reacts to it. However, if further along you notice a great deal of swelling, that may be one of the signs of infection. Lastly, discharge that comes out in a pus form, usually very milky in substance and very mucousy and gross and odd colors, yellow, green, orange, pink, purple, unnatural colors. That is a sign of an infection. Pus is often confused with normal discharge. Your body, during the healing process, off and on, will produce what's called limp discharge. This is plasma, waste, and various other things that your body expels during the healing process. Also, it helps to kind of knit together that wound and keep it as sealed as possible. And puts up some white blood cells and some other stuff to kind of fight off infection or foreign pathogens as they try to invade. This is normal. To have it, it's usually crust on the jewelry. It can be anywhere from kind of a, yellowish kind of fingernail color to sometimes a little bit of darker. It'll harden and crust on the jewelry. It's perfectly normal. It's not pus. Also in your mouth, where it's warm and moist, your body also produces this discharge, and often it can form these long strings that are yellowish and they kind of look like snot. Also normal, but they should only last for that first couple weeks. After that, you shouldn't see any of that. When I'm talking about pus, I'm talking about something that is liquid, gross, etc. So, know the difference. Last one is pain. Shooting or traveling pain. You're going to notice pain right after the piercing's done. Usually it'll last. You'll have maybe some throbbing and aching for anywhere from 2-3 minutes up to maybe a half an hour. After that, if you poke it, you're going to know it. If you bump it, you're going to know it. Well, I'm not talking about that kind of pain. What I'm talking about is when you are stationary, you're not making any movement, you're not putting any stress on the area, and you feel throbbing or aching pain. That is a sign of infection and should be resolved. Now, if you poke it, then you feel pain. Not the same thing. Also, another thing to look for is shooting or traveling pain. Now, all of those things can be by themselves signs of other problems, and this is why I say again, it's important to go see a piercer. I'm not going to go into really how to treat an infection because I'm not a medical professional. Want that clear? I'm not a doctor. However, I am going to give you what I generally suggest if somebody comes in and they have a slight infection of what to do. And basically, to be honest with you, this is what I suggest to do with aftercare in the first place. So, it can help your body and your immune system fight off the infection. However, if it doesn't start to subside or it gets worse, you definitely need medical treatment. Go see a doctor. Go see a doctor. First thing being hot compresses or hot soaks of warm water and sea salt twice daily for roughly about 10 minutes. This will help keep the holes open to allow your body to discharge that infection, and it'll also help kind of draw some of that out. The other thing is cleaning the area twice daily with an antimicrobial or germicidal mild soap, such as satin or Proven. This will reduce the amount of foreign pathogens in the area, which gives your body's immune system a more fighting or upper hand advantage to fighting off the infection. Third thing, I don't generally tell people to do unless I think it is definitely an infection, and that's treating the wound with an antibacterial cream. Remember I said cream? Cream, not ointment. You need to read the package carefully. If it's petroleum-based in any way, shape, or form, it could actually make the infection worse or lead to a whole host of other problems. So, you need to use cream. If it states on the package not for deep wounds or puncture wounds, which is exactly what a piercing is, don't use that. Use the cream. If it doesn't start to subside or it seems like it's getting worse, of course, immediately contact a physician. I'll probably do a more in-depth thing about piercing infections and problems and how to treat that in the future. Here's some things that you definitely don't want to do. Already brought up the ointment. Don't run to the medicine cabinet and pull out the Neosporin or bacitracin zinc and start smearing that all over it. It will cause issues and can actually make the infection worse. The other thing you don't want to do is start going through various harsh things that we generally use when we first get a cut, like rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, witch hazel, providine iodine, hibiclins, really, really strong soaps, and etc. Those things are going to be far too harsh. They may dry out the piercing, which, once again, creates a situation where it can't discharge the infection. And now you know. The other thing is don't remove the jewelry. A lot of people have a misconception that removal of the jewelry will just magically make everything go back to normal. The problem with this thinking is how your body heals infections and what happens when you take the jewelry out. Your body heals infections by pushing infected tissue out through the wound while replacing with healthy tissue below. When you remove the jewelry, which is the only thing keeping the holes open, they can close, which could possibly trap that infected tissue and fluids inside your body, leading to a couple possibilities. Worst case scenario, it turns into an inward traveling infection, begins actually spreading to other tissue, if left untreated, can possibly cause permanent damage to tissue. Basically gangrene. More commonly, your body will try to isolate the infection by isolate the infection by developing a cyst or an abscess and then slowly and very painfully pushing it to the surface. In both cases, you're definitely going to need medical treatment, and it's probably going to involve having it lanced and drained. If you leave the jewelry in, it allows your body to expel that infection. It kind of leaves an opening, and it usually makes it a little bit more treatable. So don't just take the jewelry out and expect everything to go back to normal, because that's not going to happen. If you would like to know more about fixing problems and some of my suggestions, I suggest you read the blog I wrote a couple years ago. I'll link that in the description and one of those iCard things, which will be on upper area. You can click on that link right now. Please subscribe. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing, I like to be patted on the back. It makes me happy and warm and fuzzy, and everybody likes me when I'm fuzzy, not when I'm cold and prickly. Cold and prickly is not as much fun. Also, of course, subscribe. If I didn't say that already. Did I say subscribe already? So you get these notifications on a regular basis. Hit that notification bell. We do post videos on tattooing and piercing 3 to 4 times a week. So if you're one of those people that's interested in body art, here's some things that you probably are going to enjoy. So subscribe and watch the other ones. If you have a question, if you feel like I covered something and didn't do it in depth enough, or you would like me to expand on something, please leave a comment. I answer all the comments that I possibly can, and I'm happy to have a discussion. If you have some new information that maybe I've blazed over, or you feel like I forgot something, please post that too, because we like to share and educate people. So other than that, I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully you don't have an infection. Honey, hopefully that isn't the case. If it is, go see somebody about it, please. Please, please go see somebody about it.